I think a big group that we see a lot in either body cam footage or court case footage, or at least recently for me, I have no idea how long it's been going on. Maybe it's been going on for years and the courts have been just dealing with it. But groups of people that either are identifying as this or being identified as this, sovereign citizens.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about sovereign citizens.
Because my deal is it kind of has a negative connotation now, and I think a lot of people that at least are using the sovereign citizen rap, let's call it, in court. I challenge jurisdiction, and this court doesn't have jurisdiction, and then they say things like, my name is spelled all lowercase. I am not the corporation that is spelled with all uppercase. And they say a lot of things, and then you say a sovereign citizen, and they go, no, that's not what I am. Yeah. And there seems to be three main groups. There's sovereign citizens, which I think is the most famous, and then there are nationalists who say they belong to they're citizens of the United States, but they're not necessarily like citizens of like different states. Yeah. So therefore, they don't have to abide by the state laws. Okay. And then there's a group called the Moorish citizens, Moorish sovereign citizens. Okay. But have you seen any of this going on in like courtrooms or
I've only seen I think I've seen like two, not in the courtrooms. I've actually seen like two police videos involving sovereign citizens. Where they get pulled over and then the police are asking for a license or whatever, and they're like, I'm not required to have that.
Yeah, they say things like they're not conducting commerce. Yeah. And then they quote a law or even the Constitution, but they quote it, again, you got to take the documents as a whole, not as just this little snippet. Yeah. And they say because they're not conducting business, that they don't have to register their automobile. Yeah. And then they say that they're free to travel, and that whenever they get pulled over, they're asked for a driver's license. They say they don't need a driver's license because the Constitution allows us to travel. Oh. Which the Constitution does allow us to travel. It says that we can travel between the states freely. But it doesn't give you the right to operate a 2-ton dangerous thing.
Yeah, but once again, if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, please. But like we have states with different laws and restrictions. So sure. So if you are free to travel between the states, every state still has its own rules and regulations.
Sure, but like let's say you were walking, or even riding a bicycle. I don't know of any state that says that you need to pass a test and to get licensed to do either one of those. Yeah. And you are definitely free to do that. Or let's say you're traveling on like public transportation, like a bus or a train. Right. You're totally free to do that. Or even fly. There are rules and regulations to people we allow to operate things that could be dangerous. Right. Like cars or airplanes. I mean, can you just imagine like just jumping in the cockpit of some airplane and being like, I don't need a pilot's license.
Yeah, I'm just going to try this.
That's not how that works. That is very dangerous, and you could injure yourself or others.
For sure. That is an argument about like traveling freely, because you still got to remember, like, it's just not one, even though it's one giant country, it's still like, you're going to run into, I don't know how many different laws from coast to coast, how many rules and regulations traveling, unless they say like traveling between states, like if the term states is something other than an actual state.
Wait, what are you talking about?
It's what you just said about sovereign citizens and their right to travel between the states.
Oh, well, you have a right to travel is what the Constitution says.
That's right. Yeah.
And we really only restrict things at the borders. But they just claim that they're traveling, and they do things like, instead of, in order to get a license plate for a vehicle, you got to go register it.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to register it because they call that, they look at it as, a lot of them at least look at it as the United States government is a corporation, and they're saying that they're not contracting with that corporation. So they don't want to register the vehicle. So they make their own plates.
Okay, geez, this is so crazy. It's so crazy. Okay. So here's what I think I said this before too. Is I can understand. I can try to agree with the fact that when you are born in this country, you are like not property of the U.S. Like you're not. Well, I don't know. You're not.
You're not anyone's property. Yeah. Well, maybe your parents.
Right. But
technically.
Like you're born
but
to the land type of thing. Like
that's what they say.
Yeah,
they say they're a man of the land or whatever.
I can somewhat understand that. I'm not saying I agree. I can understand where that comes from because once again, you're not anyone's property.
Sure.
You're just born to the land.
Well, I'll tell you, some of them claim to be sovereign and that they're not a citizen of the United States, that they're another nation, that some are just kind of made up and some are, we were looking at one like Moorish has ties to a Native American group, or what would you call it, a nation? I guess it is a nation inside of our nation. Okay. But, they'll say, well, I'm not a United States citizen, and they'll even file paperwork with the government saying that I'm not a citizen. So if you're born here, you are a citizen by birth, and that means that there are certain things that you get, like you're protected. Like there's a military that protects us, but there are also certain rules that you need to abide by. And these people will say, well, I'm not abiding by those rules because I'm not underneath your jurisdiction, and they file this paperwork.
Yeah.
But my question is what would happen if they got into serious trouble and the government did take their paperwork seriously and remove their citizenship, and they decided to deport them?
Yeah.
Where would they go?
Yeah. I saw that before. I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to double check on that, but there is a statelessness that you can be as a citizen where you are like a member of like no state, no country. But I don't know.
No, I think you fell into the sovereign citizen hole.
No, you don't
there.
think that's legit?
No, I don't. I think that's called a sovereign citizen national.
I don't know.
And that is not a thing.
You don't think so? I don't know. When I saw that if a person could actually be like,
unless you were part of a territory or something,
born like if you had no citizenship to any country, then
you're saying okay, not just you're not, when you said state, I was thinking of the United States.
Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
So but I don't know what happens because once again, like what if you are in the U.S. and you get arrested, like,
and let's say they did decide to deport you. And people might go, well, I'll just go to, I don't know, Canada.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Canada doesn't want you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They have a right to refuse. And you can't just travel to other countries without abiding by a certain level of paperwork and identification that has to, and procedure that goes along with that.
Right.
When you enter and when you leave.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's that's interesting territory because renouncing your citizenship all over to any country.
And the issue is that this is kind of like flat Earth. There's like a bunch of misinformation out there, and then people, they'll read it and then they'll go look at, like, let's say the Constitution and read that one line. They're like, wow, it is there. This must really be real.
Yeah.
And then people put videos up saying, look, I got stopped by the police, but then they just let me go. That may have happened once or twice, but that is not the majority of what's happening.
Right.
And then they get into the court, and they're like, I'm going to prove that either you don't have jurisdiction over me, or that this whole thing is just a fraud, and that everything has been mishandled.
Yeah.
And I've seen actually situations where that gets them into worse trouble.
Right.
I saw one where somebody got stopped. I think that they didn't have a license plate, driver's license, or insurance. But there was another piece to this, and I don't remember what the piece was. But the prosecutor basically said, first of all of these sovereign citizens or nationalists or Moors or Moorish, they all want to go pro se or defend themselves. But in this case, the prosecutor talked to the person defending themselves, and they said, hey, we got a deal for you. There's basically like 2 misdemeanors and a felony, and we're willing to dismiss the 2 misdemeanors as long as you do this one thing. And then the felony, we're willing to break down to like misdemeanor level, and you'll be on probation for 2 years. And as long as you don't get in trouble, then it'll just be wiped off your record. And then the judge explained that to them, and they said, no, I want a jury trial. And the judge said, now, let me be real clear about what's going on. If you agree to this plea, basically in 2 years, you're not going to have a record, and you're going to be fine. But we go to trial, and that felony, if you get convicted of it, you could go to jail up to 5 years.
Yeah.
And they're like, and the course you're going down with like saying that this isn't you, and a lot of times they'll say, I'm here on special appearance representing this person who is themselves. And they start quoting all of these like obscure like one lines from different laws and things like that. And the judge was like, I've seen a lot of people argue what you're arguing, and I have not seen one of them do it successfully.
Yeah.
And the person's like, no, I understand, jury trial.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, because of this misinformation, you could have gotten off very lightly.
Yeah.
And this misinformation got you into the situation to begin with. And now you could lose up to 5 years of your freedom.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. I don't know where a lot of that's come from.